Yep, okay, it's 6:33. I'll bring the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. The meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Enosburg Falls is being conducted electronically in order to ensure the safety of all attendees and to maintain compliance with Governor Scott's executive order. Per H681 signed into law on March 30th, 2020, Section 6, there's a temporary suspension of designated physical meeting location requirements of Vermont's open meeting law, VSA Section 312. In order to ensure that all attendees can hear clearly, your audio may be muted. When you wish to speak, you can raise your hand in the participant list or by submitting a chat request, or if you called in by pressing *9. Once acknowledged by the chair, please clearly state your name and proceed with the question or comment. Please remember that when unmuted, all participants can hear any sounds in your environment. Again, this meeting is being recorded. All right, roll call. Leonard?
Here.
Cindy?
Here.
Heather?
Here.
Jason?
I think we lost him.
Uh-oh, where'd Jason go?
He was here.
Yeah. Okay, when he was here, we'll just actually probably should wait for him. Either that or when he pops back in, we'll
just tried admitting him again. He's still showing. But he's not coming in. I think he must be having some computer problems because it's saying he's joining. So he must have had some technical difficulties and fell out, and now he's trying to come back in again.
there he is.
It's him.
All right, Jason, can you hear me?
I sort of heard you.
All right, we got Jason back. Okay, first agenda item, any modifications or changes to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I will move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public that wishes to speak tonight? Seeing no hands raised, we will start our organizational meeting. First thing we have to do is elect a chair. So as current chair, I will step down and appoint John. You did it last year. You want to do it again?
Sure, yes. First point of business under the organizational meeting is to elect a chair, as Sam indicated. Are there any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Sane.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Leonard, seconded by Cindy Minor. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Sam Valancourt as chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And we will then give the chair position right back to you then, Sam.
All right, well, thanks, everyone. Next order of business, we need a vice chair. Do we have any recommendations for vice chair?
I nominate Heather Moore.
Heather Moore, do I have any other nominations? Do I have a second nomination for Heather?
I will second that for Heather.
Oh, I got muted. All right, I'm back. All those in favor of electing Heather as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. All
Aye.
right. Did I hear an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'm sorry, this thing keeps cutting out on me. All right.
I just switched to my phone. My computer was having problems.
Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. So Heather, congratulations, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, now we got to set meeting times. Does 6:30 on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month still work for everyone?
Sure.
Yep.
If there are no objections, I'd like to set the meeting time for 6:30 every second and fourth Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay. I think I messed that up. All those in favor of setting the meeting time to 6:30 every second and fourth Tuesday, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right. Next up, paper of record. Typically, we went with St. Albans Messenger. Is that, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's been,
It's only the one, right? Not the county courier?
right. You have to have, you're supposed to have one official paper of record. Doesn't mean that you can't, advertise or put information into other papers, but each municipality is supposed to name an official paper of record that, that is their official place to look for newspaper notices.
All right. So do you guys want to stick with the messenger? Or is there any other nominations?
The
Messenger.
messenger.
Messenger, okay. Those in favor of setting the paper of record being St. Albans Messenger, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Okay. Next up, Tack Appointments. So last year, I believe who did we appoint last year?
Sam, do you want to clarify what the TAC is?
Yes. That was,
It's the transportation committee for the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. They work on transportation type issues in the region.
Thank you.
so last year
Yeah.
we nominated Gary Denton.
That's correct.
He's our Director of Public Works. I think we should nominate him again.
Sounds good. He's our go-to guy.
All right, all those in favor of appointing Gary Denton to the TAC, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, Gary, get yourself an appointment. All right, Regional Planning Commission Board appointment. So last year, a nomination was made for Sean Pio.
I
Do we
used to
want-
be, I used to be on that board too.
Okay, do you want to be on
Yeah.
it again?
Yes.
Okay, I nominate Leonard Sharon to be on the Regional Planning Commission Board.
Okay, Leonard has a nomination. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor of nominating Leonard for Regional Planning Commission Board, say aye.
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 Those
But-
opposed, nay.
Shane's still on though.
Sean, is there 2 appointments for there or just one?
I believe there's 2 appointments, but I think last year, Leonard, you said you didn't want to do it anymore. And that's why the board ended up nominating Sean, but then we had a vacancy.
Yeah, and I
But
kept,
if you feel like you can keep doing it, then that's a good thing.
yes,
Okay, so do we also want to nominate Sean for our second?
yes.
Okay, so Leonard nominates Sean. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jason with the second. All those in favor of nominating Sean Kyle for Regional Planning Commission Board, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right. Next up, we need a Regional Planning Commission Water Advisory Commission appointment. And
So I was on that committee for the last year. And to be honest, I don't know that Enosburg really needs somebody on that committee. I think we had 2 meetings. And they talk more about Lake Champlain than the Missisquoi River. So I don't know. I know it was vacant for years before I did it. So I don't know that it's really necessary.
Okay, are you not looking for a nomination this year?
I am not.
Okay. Is there any other names that the board wishes to put forward for a nomination? Okay, hearing none, I guess that seat will be vacant for now. If we hear of anybody looking to be interested, then I guess we can appoint them at a further date. Okay, so move on to Regional Energy Commission appointment.
Was it Jonathan on that commission?
No, we've actually never had anybody on the Energy Commission from Enosburg Falls.
Would you like to be?
Like to be? No, I wouldn't put it that way.
Okay.
What is that and what's that board do?
They're tasked with working on different electrical energy issues across the region.
You don't suppose Dave would be interested in that?
Dave Westcomb? I could ask him. You want me to ask him?
Yeah, sure. He's kind of the first name that pops into my head on that.
Okay,
So-
sure, I can ask him if it's something he wouldn't mind doing.
Okay, does the board have any other nominations for the Energy Commission? So we'll just wait on that, I guess. We'll leave that seat vacant for now as well. Town of Enosburg Recreation Committee appointment. Last year, there's a nomination made for Steve Wadsworth and Yvonne Kyle.
They make a
Right,
good team.
with it, it was actually Steve Wadsworth, though.
Okay,
There were 2 names nominated, but only one position. Steve was elected to it.
Steve has been on there for a while.
Yeah, he's been on there for probably 4 years, I'd say.
Okay, so what does the board think? Are there any nominations?
Well, I'll nominate Steve Wadsworth.
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy nominates Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Heather with the second. All those in favor of nominating Steve Wadsworth for Enosburg Town Recreation Committee appointment, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Okay. Next up, approval of the annual election results.
So Ken Sanamore,
A motion to approve the result.
Jason, did you have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay, Jason with the first. Is there a second?
I second.
Cindy with the second. All those in favor of approving the annual election results, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Okay, up next, we got to do rules of order. So last year, Leonard made a motion to adopt a loose interpretation of Robert's Rules of Order. I think that's been working well for us. Is there any other way that any board member feels that we should operate? If not, I'll hear a motion to accept a loose interpretation of Robert's rules.
I
I'll make a-
motion to accept Robert's rules loosely.
All right, I heard Cindy with a first. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Heather with a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, another unanimous vote. All right, we're out of that one. So next on the agenda, we have review and approval of the minutes for February 23rd and the informational meeting that was held on March 3rd, 2021. Everyone get a chance to look those over?
Yeah.
And if there was no errors or omissions, I will hear a motion to, oops, Cindy?
Well, on the informational meeting, it says we're a select board, not the trustees. On the minutes.
Okay. I'm sure we can edit that. Was there any other errors?
Just some typos, no big deal.
Okay, if everything looks fairly sound with the edit of the select board wordage to trustees, I will hear a motion to accept both minutes
As amended, I would say.
as amended, yes.
I motion to approve the
Motion to
minutes.
accept as amended.
All right, I think I heard three of you at once. There was that Jason with the first. Is there a second?
I second.
Cindy with the second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, that's unanimous. Okay, up next, we have Pearly Block redevelopment VCDP application.
Start, Sam, if you want. This is Tim Smith.
Good evening, Tim.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for making time for this discussion again. We met probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. We reached out, didn't know if anyone else had any other questions. The project has received quite a bit of publicity. We sent John a memo requesting, there it is right there, requesting the village endorse an application. I would say that as much as we can do, we would be drafting the application, obviously working with John and staff to fill in some questions, I'm sure, but for the most part, we'll take responsibility for doing that and submitting it. We also submitted, Elizabeth submitted a timeline. So we're looking at later. I think the timeline to submit it would be September. I would say also that I had a conversation with Dominic Cloud here at the city, and he offered up the services to assist us as well with, if needed, with Chip Sawyer, who's done, he usually does about 3 or 4 of these applications every year. So we have some expertise that we can fall back on, because I know that the village hasn't done any of these in a while. But we want to make sure everyone's comfortable with the fact that it's going to be our responsibility to draft the application, obviously with John's review and input. But we would hope that this application would not be a burden on the village in any way. So that's the basis of our request. Obviously, the 500,000 is huge to our project. As we shared before, it's the investment's going to be about 1.8 million, and the 500,000 could be huge for the project and making the numbers work that allow us for to offer the childcare facility rent-free, where they could utilize those funds to increase the pay of those employees and improve the benefits as well. So that's sort of our big picture. I had a long conversation today with one childcare provider who's interested in submitting a proposal. We haven't gotten that far down the road. So where we are today is, I think Thursday afternoon, I'm meeting an engineer who will do a walkthrough to start the phase 1 process for brownfields, phase 1 assessment. We also have been on site with our historic preservation consultant. What we did learn was that building is not in the historic registry. And our first step will be to get that listed so that we can be eligible for some tax credits, historic tax credits. And I think I shared it at the last meeting that we being FCIDC has committed to begin with 25,000 to start doing this due diligence. We're also having discussions with an architect as to generating the floor plans and other areas. So things continue to progress. We have applied for umbrella policy with the state of Vermont, which basically says if we go through the whole brownfield process and 10 years down the road, another hazardous issue pops up, then we are not liable for that. We would be given a clean bill of health, and then that would be to address that issue 10 years down the road would come from the state of Vermont. So we have that policy in place, and we continue to move forward. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for us, but ultimately we would like to leave this meeting with hopefully a yes on being the applicant, the village being the applicant for the CDBG application. I know when we were here previously, we talked about sort of a combined application with the town and village. We thought that would carry more strength in further conversations. We learned that that would not necessarily be the case, that if we got a letter of support from the town, that would suffice, and we wouldn't have to go through it. If we do 2 towns, it's a little more burdensome in the application and really makes no difference as long as we have that letter of support. So I want to make sure everyone was aware of that as well.
Yeah, that was one of the 2 questions that I had. The other one, there was no match to this grant, correct?
No, there's no match.
I make a motion that we support or sponsor the CDBG application.
I'll
All right.
second
Cindy has
that.
the first, Jason has the second. All those in favor of supporting the CDBG grant application, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, it's unanimous.
Perfect.
So I just want to make one thing clear. So what they are asking though for is not just support for the application. They're asking for the village to be the applicant on the application.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
Jim, do you have a
perfect.
question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to thank Tim and Elizabeth and Tim's board. They're spending money and time and energy to make this happen in downtown Enosburg. Doesn't happen every day. And I just want to really, really sincerely thank them for taking this on. 2 or 3 other quick comments. Some are connected, one's not, but I have the pulpit for 1 second. I also was contacted by a local person to start a child care center there that heard about it in the grapevine. Somebody with a master's degree and working in a child care center now, a local person. It'll just go for there for now. And this is different, and I get it. I understand what I'm doing right now, so bear with me. If you didn't see 7 days, or you don't get 7 days, I would really strongly encourage you to go online and read the last week's article about energy. It was a great article because it educated you in about 3 or 4 pages. And one of the main protagonists in the story was the Enosburg Falls, the creamery, cream cheese plant. They were sort of the poster business for the problem with renewable energy programs and stuff as such. So, and then again, pardon me, there was also an ad this week that the town of Middlebury is offering up to $15,000 in incentives for new businesses to open downtown, which I'd never seen before. Things like that have been done in St. Albans actually, but not necessarily advertised like that in the newspaper. Thank you.
Sam, I think Elizabeth, can you touch on the timeline as well when you had the floor?
Sure, if you don't mind, and let me lower my hand. So we have some time. So first, before I get into that, thank you. I think this is a great opportunity. And having just done a CDBG application, I wouldn't be so excited if I didn't think this was a great project, because it is a heavy lift. That I think it's absolutely worth it. So thank you for letting us do this. And I'll remind me that I said that when we get into the thick of things, because it's going to be fun. So we do have some time, but we are going to, because the phase 1 is getting ready to start, that is the environmental review that will need to be done. So from a practical standpoint, I will reach out, Jonathan, with you and Patrick, because I'll need access to your part of the IntelliGrants system so that I can submit the application, fill out all this stuff. So you'll be getting some emails from me on a practical standpoint, because I want to get in there and start working on that sooner rather than later, because a lot of things are up this summer with all the money flowing through from the feds down to the states. So what we can go ahead and get started on, I'd like to do pretty quickly. And then I think if you saw the timeline, a lot of things are going to happen in July. We don't, because it's part of their next fiscal year, we don't know exactly when the board meeting is. So we don't know exactly when the application is. So the dates that I put on the timeline are estimates based on this year's dates. So it looks like it's going to be the first or second week. I think the second week in September, the application will be due, and then the board meeting would be the second week in November. But knowing how you never know what comes up, the sooner we can start getting some stuff done, the better off. What we can get done, the better off we'll be. We'll look at having a public hearing. You have to have a public hearing, and we'll look at doing that in, I'm thinking August. We'll have a lot of the information available because that will have to be made public at that time. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and we can talk about that as we go forward. But I would just like to hit the ground running and get done what we can. So I will this week be reaching out to get access to the application on behalf of Enosburg, and we can get rolling.
John, are you currently required to supply a 133 audit?
Well, we have to get an audit every single year. Yeah, because we're also a municipally owned electric utility. And so the electric utility regulations require us to get a full audit every year.
But do you do the A133 for the federal government if you? I think it's if you receive funds over 750,000.
Oh, right, that requirement. No, we haven't met that in quite a while. Probably the last time we had to go through that federal requirement might have been back when we did the VCDP grant application for the downtown fire, when we did the New Falls building reconstruction. That probably was the last time we had to go through that federal audit.
So there could be a chance. I think the threshold 750, this would be 500, so you'd be below it. But if you had another 250 in federal funds someplace between now and then, the A133 would kick in, which we would make sure we budgeted funds for that audit. Usually, I think it costs FCIDC about $1,500 or $2,000. So we will make sure we budget accordingly in case it does come up where you need it. So
Okay, good idea, Tim.
And that's for,
You muted Sam.
that would be any federal money received, not just towards development, but could be like disaster relief. money.
I think so. I think it's any federal dollars when you exceed 750,000, you have to do the A133 audit.
Yeah, it's any federal money that you
Yeah.
receive. They count everything that you get if it's in that same fiscal year period.
Right.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
I did have one question. So who ends up being the land, like who's overseeing the building? Is this the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation?
Right. The tentative plan right now, Heather, is that FCIDC would be the owner. And we would utilize Jim as our project manager. And then we would continue to own the building when completed. And we would do some outreach to have a property manager to maintain the building as well.
Excellent, thank you. Very excited about this project. Thank you so much, everybody, for your
Welcome.
work going into this.
We think it's going to be a great model. We think Enosburg is going to be viewed. There'll be a lot of inquiries about the model moving forward.
I agree.
We need some revitalization and businesses in our village.
And the childcare portion.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. I get
And-
excited every single time I hear about it. Yeah.
As you know, childcare has been a hot topic for us and Jim as well. You know, with the loss of the YMCA one in St. Albans,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people, not that, well, I don't know that. I was gonna say not that we would attract some to Enosburg, but you never know if there are people coming from the eastern side of the county that drove and dropped kids off at Weisheim. So maybe they would utilize the Enosburg site as opposed to coming all the way to St. Albans where they work and do a drop off there. So we're excited about it. We think it'll be a great resource for the downtown and for the community. And we're excited to get started. So
Yeah, for sure, it's going to be a good opportunity. And I thank you, Tim, Jim, and Elizabeth. I wish you all the best in this grant application.
appreciate that. So we will, Elizabeth, you want to share that timeline real quick and then we'll get off.
Yeah, I think you have it. Sam, did I see it? Or is that you, John?
Yeah, it's in the board's packets. You
Okay,
guys have
yeah,
it in
there it
your
is.
packets, but Ken is working towards bringing up on the
sorry,
share
Ken.
screen.
Sure, I wasn't sure who was driving. So the environmental review, I have the due date is August 15th. That should give us plenty of time. And that's what I'd like to go ahead and get into gears, the online system to get that part started. Then I have the public hearing based on your schedule. I have it for August 24th, which I believe is the date of your last meeting. We can play around with that date, but that seemed like it'd be close enough to, it's close enough to the deadline, the board meeting, close enough to the application deadline. Let me get my words out here. That way the application will be largely done. You can do the resolution at the same time. The application, again, the September 14th date is a tentative date. And then the VCDP, which is the Vermont Community Development Program, would be somewhere around November 4th. And I will just say, once we have that date, anybody and so the village will need to be there because you're the applicant. Whoever needs to talk, Tim, me, Jim, whoever needs to talk, but the more support that you have, the better off the application looks. So we'll keep you up to date on when that deadline, when that board meeting is. So anybody and everybody can attend. And it's pretty informal, actually. So, and I did, I don't know if I was supposed to or not. They went into like executive session or deliberative session, whichever it was. And I actually listened to them do the deliberating when I did the CDBG for leader. They didn't kick me out. So I knew before they did the official announcement. So I don't know that I'll do that again for this one, but they do make a decision fairly quickly. And so that's what the timeline looks like as of now. Obviously, that may shift a bit if my dates are off for the application, but I think it's pretty close.
Perfect. And we can just have that public hearing during one of our open trustee meetings.
Yes.
Yes. So I think that's all we have for you, Sam and trustees. So unless there's any other questions.
Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Jim, did you have something or are you raising your hand? Good night. I can't hear you.
Just saying bye to them.
All right. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Jim.
night.
Good night.
Okay. Up next, we have town law enforcement contract.
So this was something Heather had contacted me about and asked to have on the agenda. Couple of things that have recently come to our attention, some changes that have been made for the upcoming law enforcement contract that the Sheriff's Department has with the town of Enosburg. And Heather, I think, wanted to express some concerns about those changes and have a discussion with the Board of Trustees about them. So I guess I'll let you lead that discussion, Heather.
Thanks, John. I don't really have an agenda with that. I just, it was brought up during the select board's public, their meeting. Thank you, their annual meeting. And I was just, we hadn't, they had a hope that the village would take on some of the expenses. But we haven't had a conversation about it. So I thought it would be worth bringing up. I don't know if we talk about this really now or when we're having our next select board meeting, joint meeting. But it's something that affects everybody, village and town, and our budget had already been warned. So I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, so maybe I'll fill in a little bit more on that. For those of you that weren't at the select board's annual meeting, the two significant changes were, one is they're going to reduce the contract from 7 days or 7 evenings, I should say, a week to 5 evenings a week. And the second was the school resource officer position will only run during the school year. Now, in prior years, it had been a 12-month position, and when school was out, the school resource officer was supposed to be patrolling around the community, during the daytime when he would normally be located in the school with the students. And so it was, some extra coverage that the community was receiving through the summertime for law enforcement. So those were the two changes that the select board told the community they had made with the Sheriff's Department regarding new terms on the contract, which I believe take effect July 1st, if I'm remembering correctly. So anyway, those were the changes, just to fill in a little bit more to the story. And remember too, though, Heather brought up, should we be paying for some of the additional coverage? Well, we haven't budgeted for it. Our budget is passed. It is what it is now. It probably would have been good to have had some heads up from the select board that they were making these changes, but we didn't find out until the select board's annual meeting that they had done this. So not sure that we can do much about it for the upcoming year, but or rather the current year that we're in, but maybe there's something that can be done for next year if it appears like it's created problems.
Cindy?
We actually have a vacancy in the staff right now. Should we look into funding the summertime and the extra 2 evenings? Because we're actually saving money that was actually budgeted, but as far as wages go.
Yeah, that's
I
an
mean,
option.
I don't know exactly how much money we have in wages right now, but maybe we should look into how much it will cost us.
Right. My only concern is it may cost more to fill in those other 2 days than what the vacant position is going to save us, because it's only a couple months worth of salary.
Right, I understand that, but maybe we should just, I
John?
don't know, at least look into how much it's gonna cost, because everybody does suffer.
Go ahead, John.
Another angle to this I'll just share with the board is, if you do decide to do this, you're talking about entering into a separate contract that would be just with the village, with the sheriff's department. And I guess I kind of feel like in some ways that's a step backwards. The way that the law enforcement contract used to be set up was the village used to pay 100% on all of it. The village was then able to convince the town that, look, it's not really fair. It's not equitable to the taxpayers in this community when you have, only one group of people paying for law enforcement here. The town needs to chip in on this, and they agreed to pay half. So you had essentially the town paying for half of the law enforcement contract and the village paying for half of the contract, which was a step in the right direction. And then about 10 years ago, the trustees approached the select board and said, well, look, we appreciate you paying half, but there's still this taxation inequity where, village residents pay town taxes, but town residents don't pay village taxes. So even with this 50-50 split, village residents are still paying for approximately 75% of this contract, which isn't really equitable either. We would like the select board to take 100% of the law enforcement contract, and then everybody is taxed equally one time out of the town's general fund. And the select board agreed to do that. So if you're going to try to, bridge a gap in here on your own with the village, I want you to be aware of the history and the progression of this issue and what's taken place over time. And I kind of feel like, that it would be a step backwards to insert the village in the middle of this, try to set up a stopgap measure, and then have, the village residents paying 100% of that stopgap measure, whatever it ends up being. So might just try to fill in some of the history and the
Right.
experiences on this issue.
It just seems like it was a surprise when we attended the annual meeting, because we had a joint meeting And we asked them that they needed to add a little more to it. And then all of a sudden it's cut and we didn't know anything about it until we attended the meeting. Just seemed a little shady.
Yeah, it definitely would have been nice to get a little bit of a heads up, especially before budget season. But I do agree with John, because if we did spend village dollars to have a officer patrol, they would be limited to the village. So if they were to get a call in West Enosburg or Enosburg Center, they wouldn't be able to go, which I think that also could confuse and or anger some Enosburg town residents as to why there's a cop not patrolling their neighborhood now.
Yeah, it's definitely some good points. I hadn't had my mind made up one way or another, but I felt we really needed to talk about it because was brought up at the annual meeting. And it reinforces that the joint meetings that we have with the select board are really, really valuable. And I'd love for us to do some more work this year on increasing our collaboration together. I think that we need to work towards that a little bit. So that I don't know the venue, like the general tools for how the select board and the trustees normally talk to each other between the joint meetings, which are fairly new, I think, in the history of the two boards, or at least reestablished recently. So that was part of my concern too, my wonders.
Go ahead, John.
So just to answer some of what you were asking, Heather, I mean, primarily the way the two boards communicate is through joint meetings, or sometimes you can have, one or two members from a board attend another board meeting. It's not officially a joint meeting then, because you don't have a majority of a board there, but board members can, one or two board members can attend another board's meeting and at least communicate with them, without the production of having a joint meeting warned and everything officially. But they've actually been doing this for quite a while. I mean, we've been meeting jointly, I'd say for at least 12 years. Pretty regularly, at least twice a year for about 12 years. The two boards have been meeting together jointly.
Yeah,
So it's not really new.
Yeah, typically we'll have a spring and a fall meeting. And last, I think after we got done our last executive, it would be their turn to host a joint meeting. And I guess we're waiting on an invitation of when, if I recall correctly, I think we're waiting on them to invite us to a joint meeting.
Yeah,
So,
I have been in touch with Larry to ask him about, when the select board would like to get scheduled another joint meeting. He told me he would talk with the select board about that issue, and he would be back in touch with me with, some proposed dates. Once he had talked with the select board about it, they would get back to us with some proposed dates as to when they'd like to schedule their next joint meeting. But we kind of talked about, well, it needs to be in the spring sometime. So hopefully, it won't be too long before he gets back in touch with us with some proposed dates.
Awesome. So I think maybe for our part, we should really spend some time thinking of agenda items to really have intention brought to the table when we have our next joint meeting. We had agenda items, but I think, from my experience personally, like there's just more that the landscape has been broadened for me in the past year since I've had some joint meetings with them. So just a couple of more items that we could talk about, I think.
you want to add this to our next joint meeting agenda?
I think it'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely something that we need to talk about. Yeah, I think that sounds like a plan though. If we want to keep in the back of our minds items that we need to bring up and then make, I guess, or keep a rotating joint meeting agenda that we can kind of add things and subtract things whenever we get them sorted out. I think that may be a good idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. John, do you want to reach back out to Larry and see if he's had time to discuss anything with the board about that joint
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah, again, I can give him a call and just put a reminder in his ear about it again.
Perfect. That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Was that all we had for the sheriff's contract discussion? Okay.
I believe that was it. Yeah.
All right. So I'll look forward to that next joint meeting. Okay. All right. Next up on the agenda is electric department line of credit renewal.
Yeah, so you'll see in your packets email from Lori Stanley, our staff accountant, along with a couple different letters from People's Trust. Ken is bringing them up on the share screen right now, just reminding us that we need to renew our line of credit in our electric department. This is something we have to do annually. So it's really just it's a housekeeping item, but an important item, something we need to do, and as a just in case situation within our electric department. So we have a $750,000 line of credit for our electric department. The new rate that we were quoted for the coming year would be at 1.6% for a term of 1 year. So we just need to have the board make a motion to renew that line of credit with People's Trust at an interest rate of 1.6% for the upcoming year.
Is any of that line of credit currently being used?
Not currently.
And it's been a while since we have dipped into that, correct?
I think we needed it in order to make our budget work.
Well, one of the things that we've been discussing through the past budget process that we started back in December was that we may need to use it this year to help offset some of the capital costs that we have in the electric department for the FERC relicensing effort, which, as you guys know, is a 5-year effort, estimated to be 5 years, and also a very expensive effort. We need to find a way to capitalize those costs and bring more cash back into the department, because right now the electric department is getting pretty thin in terms of cash flow. If you were to take the FERC relicensing efforts out of the picture on that, we'd be in very good shape. Those aren't going to go on forever. Those costs will end, as I said, estimated to be a 5-year effort, and we're in the 3rd year of that right now. But while we're in it, it's pretty expensive every year. So we need to find a way to capitalize that. We're discussing the legalities of that right now with the Department of Public Service. But in the meantime, one of the things that we can do to infuse some cash back into the electric department is to tap into this line of credit temporarily while we talk with them about how we can capitalize the FERC relicensing efforts. And so that was kind of the discussion that we had in December and January when we were talking about budgeting issues.
Well, I make a motion, we reopen our line of credit at a fixed percentage rate of 1.6.
1.65. Sorry, Cindy, I just want to correct you. 1.65%?
No, just 1.6%.
Yeah, I think it's 1.6, Sam. It looks like on the offer on the on the share screen anyway.
Sorry, yep, nope, I'm mistaken. The current rate is 1.65. Okay. Cindy made the motion to continue our line of credit for 750,000 at 1.6%. Jason, I heard a second from you, correct?
Yes, yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, it's unanimous. Okay, up next we have manager's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a few things to report on here tonight. First is I want to give the board an update on our phone system. One of the projects that was in mid-phase when Matt Miner left to pursue other fortunes was a conversion of our phone system, which was very outdated. We don't know exactly how old the current system we have is, but from what I can piece together, I think it was installed around 1997 or 1998. So it's quite old. Certainly served its purpose for many, many years, but as we had talked about last fall and through the budgeting process, we decided to try and get a new phone system in place that hopefully can last us, another 10 to 15 years and get some good use out of it. We are working towards completing that, although it is not completely done yet. We're kind of working with a hybrid system right now where we have both phone systems in place. We do have the new system operating and we are using it, but we still also have the old system in place as well as kind of a backup in case something goes wrong. And we will have both of those in place through the end of this month. So April 1st, we will switch over completely to the new phone system. Lori and Psyche have been working a lot with Ken Santamore over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. Ken Santamore has done a lot of work giving us some assistance on what this new phone system can do and how to operate it as well. And I just want to say that Ken, we're very grateful to you at the Village of Enosburg Falls for your extra efforts and giving us some help with this IT issue. It's much appreciated and just want to publicly acknowledge that. So there were a couple of things that have come up. One is we discovered that we're short 2 of the new telephones, didn't realize that, but we have discovered it now. So one is for the Director of Finance office, and the second one is for the meeting room, which doesn't really matter right now because we're not using the meeting room, but we should have a new phone in the meeting room. And the second issue that we've discovered is that the Public Works Garage does not have enough bandwidth to accommodate the new phone system. So there is a fix to that. We can increase the bandwidth, but it will be an additional $55 a month to get that building the bandwidth that it needs. So Cindy, I saw your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Well, when I saw the agenda, I talked to Matt. He didn't order one for the finance office because the phone that's there is software based, so it didn't need to have another phone like what everybody else is using.
Oh, okay. All right, I don't think we knew that. So maybe we'll have to look into that more. If we can figure out a way to make that existing phone work with the system, then we don't have to get one for that office. Appreciate you telling us that.
No
We'll look into that. Thank you. So lastly, on that issue, I just wanted to say, your staff understands that our phone system is the lifeline to our community. The vast majority of our customers and residents communicate with their local government by telephone. We completely understand that. And we are going to do everything we can to try and keep this as seamless as possible. And so I want to reassure you guys that, we're doing everything we can to do this transition and complete it and do it without any interruptions to our customers. And as we discover issues, we will work to resolve them. But in all honesty, when you're working on a project like this, there are things that are bound to come up that, were unexpected. And it may take a couple more weeks or maybe even a couple more months to work all the bugs out of this before it's completely 100% working the way it's intended to work. But, we will keep at it. So I just want to reassure you guys on that. Next thing, I just wanted to make you aware that Enosburg will be receiving a new electric charging station somewhere in the community. I have attached a press release from Governor Scott's office to the back of the manager's report. You can read through that. But basically it says that a private company called Blink Charging has been awarded a grant from the state to install 11 new charging stations across Vermont. And one of these is designated to be somewhere in Enosburg. So as we learn more about this, I assume at some point when they are ready, Blink Charging will be getting in communication with either the town or the village or both of the municipalities to discuss where a location, a good location would be in this community to put a new electric charging station. So we will keep the board apprised as we learn more about this upcoming project. And just wanted to make you aware of that.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And then lastly, just to make this a little more formal, I had mentioned this informally at the village's informational meeting on March 3rd, but I wanted to get on the record at a regular board meeting that we had been contacted by VTrans and asked if we wanted to resubmit the VTrans Class 2 paving grant for Depot Street that we had submitted last year in 2020. But then the state ended up canceling the program because of the pandemic. And so there ended up being no awards made to anybody last year in 2020 on that grant program. So we responded to them, yes, we would like that grant application to be resubmitted on Depot Street. And that has been done. And we will see whether we're successful in that endeavor or not. We're told it'll be sometime around the end of April, maybe in May, when they'll be making their decision on that. But just wanted to formally get that on record that we have done that, and you guys as the Board of Trustees are aware of it. And I think that's it for manager's report.
Thank you, John. All right. Before we go into executive session, is there any other business tonight? Leonard, you got something?
Yes, I understand that the chair of the trustees is going to have a birthday later this week. Like to wish him a happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
He's going to be old enough to vote.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday, Sam.
Thank you.
How
I didn't
does
get so
Leonard
lucky as
know
Jason.
everybody's birthday?
Must be the calendar, must be the Lions calendar. Yeah, at least I didn't get as lucky as Jason this year and have have a meeting on my birthday. All right, is there any other business? All right, let's go. I'll hear a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel.
I'll make the motion to go in executive session.
Have the
I
first, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Cindy with a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Right. So there was no action taken in executive session. If nobody has any other business, then I will hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. to
Good
adjourn.
job, Ken and Jonathan, for figuring out the Zoom meeting for tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
second Heather's motion.
Okay, so Heather with the first, Cindy with the second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep.